Hello, everybody, and welcome to this event, which forms part of the third edition of our Giving Life to Death Festival, Dando Vida a la Muerte, which today is the last day of the festival, and today is dedicated to life after death and near-death experiences. I'm Misa, my name is Sisa, and I'm very honored to welcome our guest, Das. She's a founder, spokesperson, and director of programs of the Connor Saunders Foundation in England. She's also a grieving model like myself. The charity was started after her son Connor died. The aims of the charity is to provide defibrillators. They do also workshops about first aid and CPRs. And another very important objective they have is raising awareness for organ donation. Anyway, she will tell us all about it. And another thing I would like to point out that for me, it really moved me, is that she says in the foundation webpage, grief is not getting over it, it's learning to live alongside it. If you choose to, you can be more than the pain. The pain cannot be allowed to define your life. As I said, I just feel very moved for these words, and for me, you are truly an inspiration. My son died 4 years and 3 months ago, and well, I'm trying to really live with these words. I am feeling a bit emotional at the moment.
Yeah, okay, Isa, I'm so very sorry for your loss. And okay. 4 years is no time, really. I'm 10 years into the journey, and it's no time at all. Sometimes it can be like yesterday, and sometimes it seems forever ago that I held him and heard his voice and his smile. So I truly am sorry for your loss, Isa. It's exhausting, isn't it? Grief. It truly is exhausting, and when it's sudden, that trauma never leaves you. With Connor, he went out one night with his friends for a friend's birthday, and he never returned, and that trauma is deep in my DNA. I still I get very panicky at weekends because it was a weekend, and especially if my other son's out or my daughter's out at the weekend, I get very anxious about that. But as I've said, that pain, I never ever wanted for Connor to look down from heaven, because I have a faith, and think that my mum is crazy because of what happened to him. So I never, ever wanted the grief to define me. And I think in a lot of senses, it does still, it can be crippling, but it's really hard to put into words, because it's hard to describe what grief is when you're in it. And it's incredible that the heart can hold the grief and the joy.
Yeah, it is incredible.
Yeah. You find that too?
Yeah. At the beginning it was difficult, very, very difficult. You felt guilty to smile or to have a little bit of happiness, and that is not right, really, live like that. So could you tell, well, you already told us what happened to your son. Mine in a way, died, he went out one day, we were traveling, we live in Mallorca, but when my husband is English, and so it was as well very sudden. He went to see some friends in England, we just arrived in Chichester, and coming back, he was almost home, he was run over. So yeah, it was as well very tragic and very sudden.
So it was very sudden for you as well.
Yeah, and he ended up dying in Southampton after, well, we had the chance to say goodbye. We spent a lot of his father and I spent a lot of time with him. And with the hospital, they were absolutely brilliant. They really helped a lot. And I wanted to ask you the same question. How was for you? Did you have to go to hospital? How was for you the experience in hospital? Because I read some stories that they were really not very nice, but I think things have changed.
So Connor was punched. It was a single punch. So Connor was killed by a 14-year-old boy, and Connor was 19 at the time. And there had been an altercation as Connor came out from our local shop in a very small village not far from where we live. And there was about 10, 14-year-olds that had been drinking, and some of them had been taking drugs. And we know that because the police told us that. And one of them threw a glass bottle, and Connor didn't think that was the right thing to do, and so he told them so. And one of the boys that Connor had argued with said about how dangerous the bottle, was, that it could have hurt somebody, called a friend over, and it was the friend that punched Connor side on. Connor didn't see the punch coming. He didn't have time to defend himself, and he didn't have time to brace himself. He didn't have time to try and protect the fall. He was 6'4", Connor. So the coroner said it was like a great oak tree falling, and as Connor hit the ground, his head hit the curb, and he was pronounced brain dead. His brainstem was severed, so he was put on life support. I don't know about JJ. Was JJ on life support? Yeah. So when we got to hospital, there was police everywhere, and my husband and I got the call about 10:30, and we went straight to hospital, and all we knew was our other son had arranged to meet Connor later in the evening, and Connor didn't show. And that's when Callum rang one of Connor's friends, because he couldn't get hold of Connor, and Connor's friend said that he had been hit and that we had to get to hospital. And when we got there, we were put into a very small room, and it was very chaotic, very chaotic. We were left in this small room with my other son, who met us there, and a friend of his. And we were told by the doctor that he had the worst possible news for us, that Connor was brain dead and there was nothing they could do for him. I still remember my son throwing up. I still remember my husband trying to climb under a chair because he just couldn't comprehend what was going on. And I remember the doctor saying, "Do you want to see him?" And it was like, of course we want to see him. He's our son. The doctor at A&E wasn't the best, but when Connor was transferred up onto ICU, I can honestly say with my hand on my heart, the 26 hours that we had with Connor, we were treated with kindness, loving kindness from every doctor, every nurse, even down to those that went to make us a cup of tea. They showed immense kindness, and with the grace of God, really, they were, I can't speak highly enough of them. I said they were fantastic.
That's good.
Because you do hear of, I've got a lot of friends now that I call my M&M mums. They're my murderer, manslaughter mums, and we formed a friendship where they're sons, and it is a lot of sons that have been lost to violence. There are some girls there when they've lost their daughters, but most of them are sons. With violence, a lot of them are knife crime and gun crime, and there are some one punch, and it's just senseless. It makes no sense to me.
No, not
why. why somebody can get so angry and put their hands or use a knife or use a gun on another human being. I don't understand it. And Connor was the most he was our gentle giant, Connor. So I don't think for 1 minute he could understand it if he was here either. It's really difficult. It is sad, and that's why for us it's really important when we go into schools that our message is we save life with our hands. We don't take life with them. And that's why we teach the CPR and the first aid. They're to be empowered with their hands, not hurt with them. That's our message.
Yes, very, very powerful message. Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
How was the charity? How did we start? Well, obviously after your son died.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I say, we were blessed to have 26 hours with Connor on life support to say your goodbyes, as you rightly said. A lot of my friends didn't have that opportunity. And I'm so grateful for that, because we were able to let family know. I have a daughter, I have another son, I have a daughter, and I've got a brother and a sister, and it was important for them to come and say their goodbyes to Connor. And even when I say that now, I don't know if you have that realization. Sometimes when you're talking, you think, how has this happened? How can my son really have died? That realization still takes my breath away.
Happens.
It's unbelievable.
I feel sometimes it's like with me all the time, and I have him. Well, I got some tattoos. I got this with his name and different things, and I talk to him, and all of a sudden, sometimes I think it's not possible.
Yes. So we've done. Sorry.
His friends growing and going and doing university. They most of them have finished now. And then, I'm happy for them, obviously. Very happy.
Yeah, you are. I honestly understand that. Yeah, you are so happy for them, but there is that little part of you that says, what would he be like now? What would my son be doing now? Because a lot of Connor's friends now, so they're 29 and they're having families now. And I love seeing them. I do love seeing them, but there's always a part of me when they go, like they come visit, and when they go, I then go and sit and have a little cry, to myself and talk to Connor, as I always do, and just I ask God a lot of the times to allow Connor to come visit me in my dreams, just to see just to see how he's, because I believe that his journey, and I know they're my beliefs, but I believe that his journey hasn't finished. It's only just begun, and my relationship with him now is spiritual. It's just not physical.
Exactly.
So I wonder if he's got a beard, and if his hair's a lot darker, or he went very dark over the years. But it's always nice to see them, and like you say, life moves on as well. When we're in that grief, in that raw, and you're only 4 years in, and I would still say that I'm 10 years now, but 4 years in, I was still crying myself to sleep every single night. And it wasn't until somebody said to me, how does your husband feel about that? And you know what? I hadn't given him a thought. And that's something else that grief, it makes you selfish, with your own.
Well, everyone grieves differently. Anyway, how was your
Absolutely.
how did you start with the foundation?
So after we had the 26 hours with Connor, it was then we found out that he was an organ donor, that he had signed the organ donor register. But we also found out about a week afterwards that he wanted this defibrillator at his football club. There was a jar on the end of the bar in the clubhouse, and it had defibrillator fund on it. And Connor came home after seeing it and saying, "Mum, you know, we need to raise some money. We need to get a defibrillator at the football club." We'd watched a football match about 6 weeks before, and a famous footballer had suffered sudden cardiac arrest on the football pitch. And he was saved by a defibrillator.
Wow.
And Connor couldn't stop asking questions about it. Like, how does somebody so fit and healthy have a heart attack? What if that happened at my football club and there wasn't a defibrillator there? Does that mean that one of my teammates would die, Mum? Does that mean if that happened to me, would I die without a defibrillator? And he really wouldn't sort of stop asking the questions. So he started thinking about fundraising and was going to put on this event. And then Connor was killed by one punch. So it was my husband. I'll never forget it. We was in our kitchen and I was on the floor and I couldn't stop crying this particular day. And my husband came and joined me and he sat on the floor alongside me and held my hand and we cried together. And we were planning Connor's celebration of life. Because it was a murder investigation, a manslaughter investigation, Connor's body was held for 6 weeks. So we couldn't have his celebration of life until his body was released. And we were organising his celebration of life, and it came to the point of, right, we didn't want flowers because Connor had brought his girlfriend flowers, but I don't think he had ever brought his mum a bunch of flowers, so he really wasn't a flower person. And we said, what are we going to do? People wanted to donate money, and we were like, what can we do? So my husband said, why don't we, whatever money we raise, we'll then have a football match in Connor's name, and we'll get a defibrillator for his football club. And that is exactly how it started. I say it's God's work because we've distributed 115 now across Sussex, defibrillators to schools and football clubs, to homeless shelters, to churches, to swimming pools. Wherever there is life, there should be a defibrillator. Because they save lives, and that's what, you know, we need to do. And the foundation has snowballed. We give anti-violence talks. I go alongside my daughter. We go into schools and we talk about the consequences of actions, about that one punch. You know, what would you do if that, you know, you was in that situation? How girls can diffuse a situation, because there were boys and girls there that night. How they can diffuse the situation if they're brave enough, somebody is brave enough just to say, stop, don't do it. You know, that's our message. Keep your hands to yourself, use them for kindness. You know, a big thing for us is Connor's challenge, which is a simple kindness challenge where they sign a banner, and, you know, we ask them to dream big, to have positive influences around them, you know, to make a difference, because they've all been born for greatness. It's important for those that we talk to know that they're loved and that they've all been born to do great things. And that's our message, really.
It's very good. Thank you. Yeah. Another thing, you can tell us about the organ donation?
Yeah, of course. So Connor signed the register when he was 16. He just signed, that was just Connor. He was one of those young people that had an old head on young shoulders, and he was bright, and he was clever, and he was wise. So he signed the register, didn't think any more about it. He would have helped anyone in life, so why would he not in his death? That was his thinking. And on the night, again, we were put into a very small room, and our specialist nurse came to us, Tracy, who is now our friend, and said, Connor was an organ donor. Did you know this? And we didn't. And my husband's first reaction was, no, you are not to touch him. 6 hours ago, I was watching him play football. I was telling him to header the ball. I was telling him to defend his goal, because Sean was not only his dad, he was his football manager. And now you're telling me that you're going to remove my son's organs, and you're not. And they were so respectful of that decision. And they said, can we just leave you, and can you just talk about it? And my husband was like, yeah, you can leave us, but it's no. So they left us, and there we were. There was my son, my other son, Callum, my daughter, Courtney, myself, my husband, and we asked one question, and it was, what would Connor want? And Connor signed that register for a reason. And we honoured his wishes. Now we are all organ donors. We all signed the register after Connor. My husband's even given a half-time talk on organ donation at the Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club, which is a huge stadium which holds 60,000 plus. And he asks one question: would you take an organ if you need one? And if your answer is yes, why would you not give one? And it's that simple for us.
We know that you have met some of the donors, some of the people that received the organs.
Yeah,
can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so after Connor saved 5 lives initially. Mm-hmm. On the night he passed, he saved 5 lives. And we've received 4 letters from the 5 recipients. And they've all wrote to us. And they've all expressed their love for Connor, how they've been given a second chance at life. They're all doing really well. A young boy received one of Connor's kidneys. He was just 8 at the time. So, and he just wrote us saying thank you, and how he's drinking lots of water to keep his kidney safe. So they, like I say, they all have their families still. They can all make memories with their family still, and that brings comfort to us as a family, that they're able to make new memories.
So that's really nice. I can imagine that it has to bring you lots of comfort knowing that.
Yeah.
We didn't have this.
I was just going to ask that. What about JJ?
Well, he didn't do it, obviously, but and we were in England and we live in Mallorca, and we asked, my husband asked it in hospital, and they said that, I think he was too damaged to be able to die and to be able to donate, but I'm sure he would have won that as well. He was all about helping and meeting new people and helping people. Yeah. Thank you. Well, you told a little bit about it, but can you tell us about any memorials or rituals that you did for your son? If you have anything else to...
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have, so my husband goes to the site where Connor was killed. He goes there every Saturday night. And there's a little memorial outside Tesco's Express, which is a little supermarket that Connor had gone into to buy some gum. And then as he came out, he confronted the teenagers. Mm-hmm. And there's a lantern down there, and my husband, in little tea lights, he writes CS5, which is Connor Saunders 5, because Connor wore the number 5 football shirt. He saved 5 lives, and we will always be a family of 5. Always, we're always going to have 3 children. We're always going to be Connor's parents. That hasn't changed. I'm blessed and privileged to be his mum. He chose me to be his mum, and I'm really blessed with that fact. And so he lights a candle every Saturday night down there. I struggle to go down there, I must say, especially on a Saturday night, because I still have a lot of anxieties when it comes to the weekends. But every night we light candles in our garden, and we light 6 candles, 5 lives for the lives that Connor saved, and then the 6th one for him. And it's not just for remembrance, it's for hope. Every time we light that candle, we look out into our garden and we see them tea lights alight, and it gives hope. It truly does. There has to be light in the darkness. We was in the darkness for a long time after Connor. I actually thought that the grief would most probably kill me. I have never, and we've had bereavements before in our family. Sean's dad had passed. I had lost my nan. His mum had passed. We had known bereavements, but I had never, ever known grief like this before. After losing a child, it is undescribable. There is no word for it. It is. I thought that the grief would most probably kill me. So every time we light a candle, we give thanks, for Connor's life, And that's what you have to be, I think, reminded of continuously, honouring the love more than the loss. That's really important for us. As a family, as his friends, all of them. When I get a message, and the same for you, I'll get a random text from a friend that says, I ask Connor every day. I talk to him every day. I speak to him. So still say, what would Connor do? What would Connor want from me? I still have my life, and that's really important. Honouring the love more than the loss.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely, I feel the same way. Do you think, in my case, before this, my son JJ died, I didn't want to think about death, and I just had it all. I just thought I tell to my kids, it will happen when you are older, and I sort of try to avoid it. But obviously, everything changed after. Because I had to face it. How do you feel about it? How was for you?
I feel the same as you. I often talk about it. I've never feared death. I just fear the devastation that it causes to the family afterwards. I don't want, as you know, with other siblings, their loss, the fact that they've lost their brother, my husband losing his son, I don't want them to hurt anymore. So I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not. And I've told my family, please don't be too sad for me. I know they're going to be sad, obviously, but I've told them to, live their best life, because I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of going, to meet my son and to meet, my father, as in God. I'm not afraid of that at all. It's just the aftermath, the sadness and the grieving that, my family will do, my grandchildren will do. I want to live as long as I can. As long as God bless me to live, I want to live. I want to see my grandchildren grow up. I want to see them get married, but when God calls me home, I've told my family, don't be sad for me.
Another thing what happened to me is I was very skeptical. I didn't want to be open to this afterlife. I didn't know what to think about it. I didn't want to know about near-death experiences and things like that. But now, when I became really open to all of it,
yeah, I'm the same, Isa. I'm exactly the same. My husband and I travelled all around the country. To go into mediumships, going to see clairvoyance, going to see, and none of them would ever take any money from us. Once Connor came through and he spoke to us, it reaffirmed my belief in the afterlife, because there were things that they could not have possibly known about Connor, about the events that happened, about our life. That just gave us the proof that, there is more to life than this. This is just where we're here to learn, and then we go on to a greater good. We go on to heaven, where it is just full of love, full of light, no pain, no nastiness, just kindness and love. And that gives me hope as well.
Exactly. I feel the same way. I feel,
exactly the same. Have you had messages from JJ where you thought, they could not have known that?
Yeah, I have tried. We tried at the beginning with a few. We did it online as well, because my husband's Spanish is not very good, and we had some things that they couldn't know. They couldn't have known.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I have to learn to communicate, to connect with him by myself, without any, because nothing really made me. I just want him here with me physically, in a way, but that's what I really wanted or want. So I had to learn to communicate with him day by day. And what I did a lot is writing to him. At the beginning, I wrote lots of I got lots of notepads with that I was writing to him. I was writing to him letters, and now I only do it sometimes, but especially at the beginning, I did.
Have you thought about putting that into a book?
Yeah, it's another project I got in mind. Yeah, but I'm too busy, and it's going to go very slowly. But it's something I got in mind, because he had this idea as well to create a book himself, to write a book himself. So, and he started a little bit of one. So yeah. Wonderful. And another, how was for his brothers and sisters? How did they live it?
So they were young adults. So Courtney was 27 at the time, and Callum was 25 at the time. My daughter had a child, Stanley, who was just 18 months at the time. So she had a focus on him, and we all did. We one of the first conversations we had as parents, Sean and I, was that our other children have lost enough. They've lost their baby brother. There is no way they can lose us. We have to show them that it's okay to smile, okay to make new memories. They had lost enough, seeing the sadness in their eyes, hurt beyond measure. I couldn't put it into words when I used to see them, and there was nothing we could do to fix them. 10 years on, as you know, grief changes, and birthdays, Christmas, any big events we want to tell Connor about, and you can't. So it still affects them. It still affects us. But they're both married now. Courtney has 3 children, and Callum has 2 children. So I've got 5 of the most incredible, beautiful grandbabies that are our lives. We absolutely adore and worship them. And then you have that moment where you're all together and we're in our garden or in our home, and then you have the realisation that you're never going to be grandparents to Connor's children. There's always that double-edged sword when it comes to grieving. But you have to, okay, I'll give myself a talking to. Either I say, right, okay, Daz, stop this. You're blessed. It wasn't Connor's journey. He made his mark on this earth. His life still continues in other ways, through us. And when I look at the grandbabies, and I see their brown eyes, that's Connor. He had the biggest, deepest, beautifulest brown eyes I was ever blessed to look into. I see them in my grandchildren. Their little ways, I see Connor in them. So I'm, eternally grateful for Connor's life. I just wish it had been longer, as you well know.
Yeah.
As you well know.
It is like that, definitely. I feel that it was a gift, and I learned so much because of this happening, unfortunately. And we just have to keep going and feel blessed for what we got somehow, and try to, keep his life in a different way, and keep going and try to help people, especially.
Yes. That's really important. I agree with you there. It really is, because I, again, was fortunate enough to have family support. I was fortunate enough to have friends. I was fortunate enough to have victim support that came into our family and helped us. She became our friend in a time when we were on our knees, when life will never be the same again. We were really fortunate enough, but I'm well aware that there are, families that don't have that support when they become bereaved. And it's really important to have that support from other mums, other parents that have been through it. And we all grieve differently. We do. We all grieve differently. Men especially grieve differently. Young adults grieve differently. Connor's friends were never offered any support. They didn't want to burden us with their tears or with their problems, but we always said to them, we're always here for you. We fully understand that you've lost somebody so precious. Because he was the one that they would all come to. He was the one that would listen to them. He was the one that was their conscience almost. And they lost that. They lost their friend. But again, whether they think I'm crazy or not, I always tell them, talk to him. He's still here. We just can't see him.
Mm-hmm.
He's still here.
What would you say to parents that they just lost a child? What could you give them a message? Or
it's really important, again, to not compare the grief. Don't be going into a bereaved parent and say, I know how you feel, I've lost my cat or I've lost my dog, because that is, you know, I've had that said to me. I know how you feel. I've just lost my mum who's 96. Don't compare grief. It's an individual journey. But I would say be kind to yourself. Wallow in that self-pity. Cry those tears. Just don't stay there. Don't stay there. Take as long as you need to try and process it, that you're not going crazy, that better days will come, even though you can't see that. The light will re-enter your life. But just give yourself time to stay in bed if you want to. Drink 20 cups of coffee if you want to. Eat lots of cake if you want to. Give yourself time to try to process what's happened to you, as hard as that may be. You know, and for friends, you know, friends that are friends of bereaved parents, don't compare the old Daz to the new Daz. Don't ask for the old Daz to come back, because she's never going to come back. She's never going to come back. But I will be here for you. I'm still Daz, but I'm a different Daz. You know, there are some things that I still can't do with my friends, but I can do different things with you. You know, just be still with me. You know, you don't have to have the answers. You don't have to know the right thing to say. Just be with me.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you may have had it, Issa, as well, where somebody's crossed the road because they've seen you approaching and they don't know what to say. And it really hurts. It really hurts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't do that. You don't have to have the answers for me. I don't have the answers for me.
The problem is I feel like before I would have been that person, the one that would have crossed over, you know. I know that's, you know, everything changes so much.
Yeah, of course. And you've learned from that. And that's the reason, JJ.
That's the reason we're doing all this. It's very, very, very important.
Absolutely. And I commend you for doing this, Issa. Be proud of yourself, you know, because it's incredibly hard and you want to help others. And that's what we're here for. We're here to serve. And JJ and Connor will always be our boys. They will always be our sons. And they are still, and I still say this, they are still teaching us every day.
I feel the same way, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. The last thing, because we are approaching the end of this fantastic interview, would you, regarding your foundation, you want to give the details for people in England, you want to contact you?
Yeah, of course. So it's www.connors5.com, and we're on Twitter, Connor Saunders 5. We're on Instagram, again, Connor Saunders HQ, and we're on Facebook, the Connor Saunders Foundation. And you can find us on there. You know, we're not a huge charity. We're just a very small charity in Sussex. You know, hoping and praying that we continue to make a difference in Connor's name, and letting everybody know that you've always got the choice to do the right thing, and sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing, but it's always the right thing to do. Do the right thing and be kind always.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, and it's been lovely hearing about JJ, and never forget you're a warrior. A warrior.
Thank you. Thank you as well, Clinis, today doing the technical part. Please check our website, andovidalamuerte.org. Don't forget that this afternoon and at 7 Spanish time, we will have a conference with the Dr. Luján Comas, and after at 8, a talk with Jocelyn Arellano and Alejandro Agudo. Please remember, we're just doing this because we think it's very, very important, and you to stop this taboo in our society, and we would appreciate any donations. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Dash, for your time. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Elsa. It's been a privilege.